Thank you, Henry. I've never, of course, heard any politicians speaking at excessive length. Well, I'm not going to bother showing any slides. I wanted to say, first of all, we were delighted that so many people followed our work through the Future of the UK and Scotland programme, and that it continues, and we will be continuing to offer thoughts and analysis on what is happening since the referendum, both in Scotland and elsewhere in the UK. I'm here to set the scene, really, for the both parts of the programme. And thinking about the referendum outcome, three things stand out for me. Henry's mentioned the first of them, and that was the record-breaking turnout, more turnout, higher turnout than ever before recorded in Scotland, a reflection of the extraordinary public engagement in the debate that we saw. The second thing that stands out is the apparent clarity of the outcome at 55.3% no, 44.7% yes. I'll explain what I mean by apparent in a minute. And the third thing that strikes me about the outcome is that certainly those who didn't bother staying up to listen to the results went to bed on the 18th of September wondering whether Scotland had voted for independence or not, and then woke up, switched the telly on the 19th, and heard David Cameron talking about English votes on English laws. Now let me unpack those last two comments. Apparent clarity in the outcome. I say apparent because no came to mean additional devolution delivered to a short timetable. Gordon Brown's announcement on the 8th of September put that on the table, and then there was the vow delivered by the three-party leaders on the 16th, which reiterated that timetable and committed the UK level to continue with the Barnett formula. So a no vote was associated at the last minute with significant additional commitments around Scotland's place within the UK. Now that for me was the second point in a constitutional chain reaction we are seeing unfold. The first point in that was YouGov's poll on the 5th of September, which showed a 51-49 majority in voting intention for yes. That was what catalysed the move to provide pledges and vows on more devolution. And then Cameron's announcement at 7 a.m. on the 19th of September that additional devolution would be accompanied by English votes on English laws and further consideration of devolution in Scotland and Wales was the next part in that chain reaction. English votes on English laws, this is a response to a sense of unfairness in England about current constitutional arrangements in the UK. It is a widely held, it is a clear majority view that this is an unfairness, that England has no institutional voice. What Cameron was doing was offering institutional recognition for England, in part in reflection of that popular view, but certainly in reflection of strong agitation in the run-up to the referendum on the Conservative backbenches, which Cameron tried with that statement to head off. There's also a party political dimension there. This puts Labour in a quandary in England, and I'll come back to that in a moment. The pledge on Wales in particular was a response to the sense of unfairness across the political spectrum in Wales about the Barnett formula and the relative underfunding of Wales that most people agree is the case. So freezing Barnett was not good for Wales. It may have been good for Scotland. Now this chain reaction opens up quite new terrain. It creates at least three kinds of conflict. Firstly, it pits nation against nation. England's interests have been framed in relation to Scotland's. Wales' interests have been framed in relation to Scotland. There's something of a trade-off between nation. It also pits party against party. In England, it pits the Conservative Party against the Labour Party. Now, will Labour fall into the trap of arguing against English votes on English laws to maintain its prospects of a stable UK government after the next election and in future elections? I think, yes, Labour is clearly going to walk into that trap. And in doing so, it's running the risk of saying that it wants to use its strength in Scotland to prevent the expression of the democratic will of people in England. Not a good place to be. David Cameron has removed the lockstep that he initially envisaged, progress on additional powers for Scotland at the same pace as progress on English votes and English laws. And that means that the English pace will be slower, and this will be an issue in the next UK election, and puts Labour in a very difficult place in England. But Labour's also in a very difficult place in Scotland. Labour is now looking exposed by having put forward the most modest proposals on additional devolution, Devo-min, you might call it. The SNP's engagement in Lord Smith's process is going to put a Devo-max position in the mix, and I think that will do many things, but certainly put Labour under the spotlight. And we need to remember where the yes vote was strongest a few weeks back, and that, of course, was in areas of traditional Labour strength. Now, Labour, I think, has been very disconcerted by this. We spent a lot of time before the referendum talking about losers' consent, that is, how important it was for whoever lost to be satisfied that the outcome was arrived in the right way. I think, and this is I'm borrowing this from Michael Keating, thank you, Michael. I think there's some signs that on the Labour side of the debate, winners' consent is difficult to find. Labour is not finding the terms of victory to be very good and is disconcerted by this, and perhaps nostalgic for those times when things were all better together. A third conflict line is to pit the Labour Party against itself. There are already divisions between the Holyrood and the Westminster Party, which betray a continuing Treasury mentality in the Westminster Party, sceptical about significant tax devolution. And that's now a danger for Labour in Scotland at the next UK election. Gordon Brown's recent freelancing from Scotland about the linkages between Scottish devolution and English votes is unlikely to be welcomed by Labour in England. Labour has real difficulties in understanding how to play itself into different territorial arenas. So what next? The delivery of additional devolution by the Smiths Commission is underway. A very tight timescale, too tight a timescale for well-founded legislation that genuinely reflects public concerns. Probably too tight a timescale for agreement across and within parties on an outcome that will have rational policy consequences. However, the costs of non-delivery would be huge in terms of making this an electoral issue next May, so there will be something delivered, but it will have shortcomings. And there will be interaction effects between reform in the different nations. English votes for English laws, it seems, has been uncoupled, but I don't think that will stop there being spillover effects from debates in one place impacting on the other, and similarly in Wales on the future of devolution funding. So we're in this chain reaction, and in the nature of chain reactions, we're in a situation which is unplanned, unstable, and unpredictable in its outcome. Thank you, Henry.